having digital currency and really
Aha. Si Powell to ha, kung kilala nyo to. Si Powell to, si Major Powell, si Brother Powell, katext ko to palagi tuwing FOMC.
asking the question. Imagine a government that creates money that has an expiration date, and if you don't use it, it'll disappear. That's happening already with the digital Yuan, and Americans are rightfully skeptical.
President Biden issued an executive order to explore the creation of a U.S. central bank digital currency, effectively convert
Ah ha 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 ha. Fed chairs. Hihi. Hihi.
the dollar into a centralized digital currency.
The Federal Reserve just announced that it's about to show us its new digital payment system this year in July. This is having a huge
July. Oh my God. Did I just say August? Did I just say August? The fall of Bitcoin. I told you. August. Hihi. July, nila i-release ang CBDC. And guess what? That is the time that they converting their Bitcoin into CBDC. And I believe meron tayong Twitter space na naganap way back. I don't know. I can't remember. Saan kaya yun? Saan natin ginanap yung Twitter space na yun? And kailan? Hanapin nyo nga yung Twitter space natin na yun. Aha. I don't know. Kayo mag-play. Okay? I-save ko na lang to sa bookmark ko. There you go. Okay? Bitcoin. Update natin ng March 20, 2023. Take note. I believe nabanggit ko dyan ng August kasi July nila ilalabas yun. So, yeah.
huge ripple effect across the entire internet because the US dollar is in the process of being replaced by a central bank digital currency, or a CBDC. In fact, most countries around the world are creating their own right now.
What if I told you 90% now of the world's central banks say they're investigating a central bank digital coins?
According to a report by Citi, by 2030, there will be up to $5 trillion digital dollars.
Ano yan?
The Chinese.
Ha? Ano to? Ilang trillion yan? Sa by 2030? Like, aha. Isipin nyo ha. Magpakatalino kayo ngayon. Okay? Isipin nyo mabuti.
Circulating the global economy. But there's a problem because most Americans don't trust the government to do that.
There's a problem because most Americans don't trust the government to do this. Di ba sabi ko nga sa inyo, they created the problem, then they will sell a solution. Kukunin nila ang loob na lahat ng Amerikano na bumalik dyan. Tandaan nyo. Pipilitin nila.
In the 1950s, for example, the era that was called the golden age of capitalism, when we had unprecedented economic growth and higher wages, a point in history far from perfect. But in 1958, Pew Research asked the American people if they trusted the US government to do what was in their best interest. And they did. That trust reached a peak of 77% by 1964. But over time, that trust has been gradually eroding, and today, that number has dropped all the way to 20. Only 1 out of 5 Americans trust the government to do this. And it's also why people like to use other forms of money like cash and even cryptocurrency. But right now, the government has their own idea for a CBDC, central bank digital currency. And this will have a huge consequence, not only on ideas like privacy, freedom, but even Bitcoin. So in today's video, I want to help explain exactly what this is, how this might work, and how this will ultimately affect us. So with that said, let's get right into it. Hi, my name is Andre Jick. Hope you're doing well. Come for the finance and stay for the new Fed payment system and CBDCs. Now, the two are somewhat connected, but they're not the same, even though people are confusing them as one.
It's a whole new system that's faster and better than traditional banking. You can go to a grocery store and buy a few items with your hard-earned money. And then you present your Fed card with a trusty Federal Reserve representative. And they'll say, oh, yeah, you're too fat, so you can't buy any of these things. The end.
Yeah, so that's not at all how it works. Here's how it actually works. This new payment system will make it so that businesses and people will be able to send and receive instant payments 24 hours a day and 7 days a week, and that's because funds will settle between.
Ay, nako. Di ba sabi ko nga sa inyo, mag-create sila ng digital currency kasi nga 'di ba sabi ng mga tao kaya lang naman nila pinipili ang cryptocurrency kasi nga decentralized siya and walang middleman. It's a 24/7 transaction. Walang kayang makapagpapigil sa walang middleman and they will do the exact same thing para makuha ang mga loob ng tao. Oy, wait guys, 'di ba sabi ko sa inyo? Oy, wait lang. 'Di ba sabi niyo gusto niyo ng 24/7 transaction, gusto niyo walang middleman? Ito na. CBDC. Tika dito.
Between banks in real time and will only just take seconds. Here's a couple examples of how this will be used in practice. Let's say you're a coffee shop owner and you needed a quick delivery of some coffee beans.
Again remember, this is 8 hours ago uploaded, okay? 8 hours ago,
Once you got a request of payment from your supplier, you would pay through a participating bank like your credit union, and the coffee bean supplier would instantly receive your payment. On the back end of things, your credit union would send an ISO 20022, which is a digital form to the FedNow.
ISO, lahat naman tayo, 'di ba? Meron tayo ISO certified, parang ganoon. Okay. So parang certification 'yan na okay, credited tayo ng bangko, mag-transfer ng ganito, credible source tayo and regulated tayo. So papayag.
Service, which would validate it and send a message to the coffee bean bank. That would
Ano sa tingin niyo to? Ano yung FedNow? Sige nga. Again, kung Bitcoin tayo, kung P2P tayo, this is a P2P transaction. Isipin nyo lang. Ito yung tao, then ito yung FedNow, instant transfer payment. Exchange, correct. This is the what? Ito yung tatayong middleman. Ito yung tatayong exchange sa inyo, katulad ng BingX or Binance for P2P transaction.
receiving bank would then confirm in real time that it could receive the payment, and the FedNow service would then debit and credit the money and then send a message to both banks that the settlement was completed. Now, that whole process, which sounds insanely complicated, would happen pretty much instantaneously. But the system we have right now just takes a lot more banks, time, and a lot more money. And this service will eventually apply for things like bill pay and for sending money from one account to another. This will be super helpful if, for example, you have a utility bill that's due on that same day and you want to pay it right away without paying late penalties. Now, eventually, the Fed will want us to use it for peer-to-peer transactions so we can send money to each other in the same way that we use Venmo or Apple Pay. For now, though, this service will only be made available to people within the United States, so you won't be able to send money instantaneously overseas. Now, this will be rolled out in phases starting in July, but already in the first week of April, they're giving out formal certifications for their quote participants. So that is the FedNow payment system, which is tied to the CBDC, the central bank digital currency. So let me explain what that is. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor. Inflation and the declining economy are
Again, ayun na Binigyan ko na kayo ng time span way back before, months and months ago. Pinag-usapan na natin to months and months ago. And now, 8 hours ago, pinag-uusapan na siya. Okay? Type Y in the chat, guys. If you know, you're ready. Ready na ba kayo? Okay? Do you think you're ready? Again, binigyan ko na kayo ng something na ma-cherish nyo. Binigyan ko kayo ng something na magiging prepare kayo. Be ready. Now, kung ma-anticipate nyo, again. Kung naiisip nyo yung naiisip ko ngayon, August, September, October, definitely by October, lahat kayo may mga pera na. Okay? Hindi naman lahat kayo Majority lang na makakapag-anticipate nito, nagigets yung point ko ngayon. Bigyan nyo lang ng 2 months. Now, it's April, May, June, July. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost sabihin na natin 4 months. We still have 4 months left. And itong September, October, or until November, bibigyan ko kayo na itong time span na 3 months na to. And guess what? Some of you will be declared as a millionaire. Okay? Again, you'll be declared as millionaire. You'll declare yourself as a millionaire. Bakit? I-anticipate mo nga yung market So kung babagsak si Bitcoin, why not short it? Kung tataas ang CBDC, why not long it? Naiintindihan niyo ba yung point ko? It's about paunahan kayo. And now, believe me if I say it, kung nagre-record kayo ngayon, it's actually now April 8, Saturday, 2:45 PM. Hindi nyo makikita sa TikTok to now. Makikita nyo sa TikTok to once na June or July na, or definitely in August, or maybe marami sa inyo nakikinig sa akin, and now we'll try to explode it or expose it on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, YouTube, kung saan. Okay? It's okay, it's fine. As long as you're educating a lot of people, okay yun. Okay? Okay yun. Pero again ha, you heard it here first. Dito nyo unang narinig niyan, months and months ago. We're talking about it months ago. I told you so. I told you na no one will believe you until it happened. No one will believe in you until it happened. Walang maniniwala sa'yo, not until na mangyari yon. Pero again, it's currently happening. And guess what? Marami pa kayo. You still have 2 to 3 months to prepare yourself. And guess what? Let's continue.
We'll give you a free 2-week trial using my link. You trial now all over the world. 11 countries have already launched their own digital currency, including the Bahamas with their sand dollar, Jamaica, and Nigeria. 18 countries are in the testing phase. 32 countries are developing their own right now.
Kasama tayo doon.
39 are trying to figure it all out and researching. Only 15 are inactive and 2 are canceled. But all in all, 114 countries representing 95% of the world's GDP are in some way involved with this process, including the US. Now, the obvious question is, why is the Federal Reserve so focused on digitizing dollars if the dollar is already digital and it's already on our phone? The answer is, there's a huge difference between true digital currency and the system we have today. Because our current
Because what? Hulaan ko sasabihin na to. Hulaan ko sasabihin na to. So, syempre, babagsak na ang digital currency ng US dollar. Ibig sabihin, kung may peso ka, pag bumagsak ang peso, bagsak din yun sa digital mo.
monetary system relies more on digital claims of
Hehe.
currency.
See?
This is why when we use banks and we transfer from one account to another, or we use apps like Zelle and Venmo and Apple Pay, we're actually sending digital IOUs and digital claims to money, but not necessarily the money itself.
O, di ba?
That's why banks need to use third-party banks to verify transactions to make sure that the money we are sending exists there in the first place. And a true digital currency would be true value transferred from A to B without the use of a bunch of third-party banks. All of this is starting to sound kind of like the things crypto is already trying to solve, except there's a couple huge differences. CBDCs are controlled through a private network by the government, so they're not decentralized, and that gives the government full control over its supply and how quickly
The demand. Di ba nga sabi ko nga sa inyo, hindi sila magpapatalo. Hindi sila magpapatalo. Pwede naman nilang gawing decentralized yun. Pero again, magiging limited ng supply kasi hindi sila makakapag-print. Dito, wala nang printing ng pera. Okay? Wala nang printing ng pera dito. It's just unlimited ng supply ngayon niya. So, para pa rin cryptocurrency, parang Bitcoin pa rin, pero hindi siya Bitcoin na limited ng supply. Pero i-outpace niya yun, kapalit ng what? Maraming exchange, maraming taong magtatangkilik. So, in that case, matatalo niya ang value ng Bitcoin kasi maraming mag-invest. And guess what? Yun yung magiging pace ngayon. Kung tinitingnan nyo ang Yuan as a reserve currency, isipin nyo, ito ang magiging world reserve currency ng buong mundo, pero digitalized. Hindi na siya physical money or physical hard-earned money. Naintindihan? CBDC will be parang ganun. Pero again, it will fail. Lahat ng sinasabi ko ngayon, kahit yung CBDC na to, hindi to magtatagal. It will fail. Bakit? Gusto lang nilang labanan ang Yuan. Gusto lang nilang labanan ng China. That's why they're creating a CBDC. Pero they cannot change the fact na Yuan na talaga ang maging number 1. It's just ito yung pang-counter nila. Pero again, gusto lang nilang kumita ng maraming pera in order to exchange it into Yuan. It means, Sir Kim, yung mga mauuna mag-i-invest sa CBDC, which is, quote-unquote, government affiliates, ibig sabihin, government lahat yan, na mauuna, pag nanalo sila doon, pag dumami na ang pera nila, they will tend to exchange it into Yuan. Simple as that. Invest it in Yuan. Invest it in China. And now, the people who invested there at the second place, ano mangyari? Dead. Die. Bakit? Uy, sinabi ko sa inyo, mag-ano kayo mag-research kayo, do your own research, sabi ko sa inyo Yun lang. Yun lang. Guys, crypto pa rin tayo, di ba? May risk pa rin dito. Yun ang sinasabi ko sa inyo, biglang ganun. Diba?
They can move it from point A to point B. And with that, there's a lot of pros and a lot of cons. Now, there's a ton of opinions on this subject, so I'm going to save mine toward the end of the video if you want to see that. But if the government creates their own CBDC, here's what that would allow them to do that's good and not so good. A central bank digital currency would give the Fed direct control over the supply of money, which is actually good because right now they already do this with something called quantitative easing. We saw this during the pandemic when they flooded the economy with money by buying mortgage-backed securities and treasury bonds. But it can also shrink the supply of money through quantitative tightening, which is the same process but in reverse, by selling off their assets, which is what they're doing now, with the exception of this anomaly, which represents all of those failed bank bailouts. The point is this: our financial system is so complicated that it almost works like a Rube Goldberg machine if you've ever seen those. So think of this new central bank digital currency system as financial enslavement, but with less steps. If I disappear, it was not by magic. Another benefit is speed, because
Nagets niyo yung point niya?
central bank digital currency system as financial enslavement, but
Hehe.
with less steps. If I disappear,
Di ba sabi ko nga sa inyo, etong CBDC, ang mangyayari dito is, parang ganun din, parang crypto din. Ibig sabihin, sabi ko nga sa inyo, paunahan lang sila dyan. Papadami lang nila ang pera nila para makapag-invest sila sa Yuan or mag-invest sila sa other ways na meron ng China. And guess what? Sisisihin nila ang mga poor. Sisisihin nila tayong mahihirap na nag-invest kasi ba't kayo sumabay? Ba't nyo kasi tinangkilik ng sobra-sobra? Diba dapat do your own research? And guess what? Mas napabilis lang sa kanila ang lahat.
it was not by magic. Another benefit is speed. Because money will be programmable, it would hypothetically stabilize the value of the dollar, and it would modernize the banks. It would also make sending money and stimulus by the government much faster, and in theory lower the cost of banking because it would force the banks to compete with the Fed to make transfers and even ATM machines much cheaper. A CBDC would also help with tax revenues because most people wouldn't have to file their taxes. Instead, the government would know exactly how much money we've made, so they would send us an invoice and we would just have to pay. So it sounds like a lot of really great benefits, but unfortunately, there's a lot of downsides and a lot of risks.
So what the central bank digital currency is all about is surveilling Americans and controlling.
Yun na yun. Malalaman nga lang nila kayo, identity ninyo. There's no decentralization on CBDC. But it gives you the benefit na kaya mo mag-transfer 24/7. Naintindihan nyo? Yun yun. Kinopya niya ang Bitcoin, kinopya niya ang crypto, which is, ang Bitcoin or crypto, they're trying to do anonymously. Trying to do it anonymously. Pero dito, hindi pwede yun. Pero makukuha niyo yung benefits ng pag-trade ng crypto, which is 24/7. Transaction, peer-to-peer transaction, 24/7. Sabi mo kasi, di ba? Ayaw mo nang hanggang Friday lang ang bangko, tapos half day pa, tapos puno pa ng pila ang mga bangko. So dito, hindi na. Pero, kilala ka namin.
Behavior of Americans. And how do we know? Because we've seen this happen in other parts of the world.
People are calling the concept of CBDCs as Big Brother's digital dollar. And it makes sense why people are skeptical, because CBDCs will be tied to your unique digital ID that'll be used to build your social proof. Which all sounds exactly like the next plot of a Black Mirror episode. If the government wanted, they could freeze your assets.
Naintindihan niyo ba yung reference niya doon? A Black Mirror reference. Black Mirror. Sino dito nanonood ng Black Mirror series sa Netflix? A Black Mirror. Okay? So, di ba ba Netflix yun? I believe may have Netflix. Okay. Okay. May Netflix ako pero hindi ko naman nagagamit. We have a Black Mirror here. Season 5. So, there you go. So, sige. Bibigay ko sa inyo. So, punta kayo sa episode 1 and then punta ka dito sa 15 million merits. Number 1 to. Then, pag napanood mo tong 15 million merits, punta ka dito sa episode 2. Hanapin mo yung itong Waldo moments. And then, punta ka ng episode 3. Puntahan mo tong, nasaan ba yun? Ito, which is hated by the nation. And then, punta ka ng 4. No, wala dito. So, punta tayo ng 5. So, ito ba yun? So, hindi ito yun. Pero anyways, kunin mo yun. Tapos yung shout up and dance yung hinahanap ko. Nasaan ba yung shout up and dance? Ito. Yeah. Okay? So, gusto ko, tingnan nyo ito na maigi. Kung may Netflix kayo or Fbox Movies, pwede nyo mapanood itong mga to. Okay? So, yan yung mga i-recommend ko sa inyo. Okay, then itong playtest, hindi naman, pero pwede nyo rin siya panoorin kasi it's about gaming, kung paano nagbago ang technology natin. Revolutionary siya. Okay? So, ayan. So, maiintindihan nyo yung reference na ginamit niya dito.
And if you don't like what you're spending, with the flick of a switch, your bank account now shows 0.
Mr. President, the Glenflart's value just dropped to nothing.
Take a look at this one. Di ba sinabi ko nga sa inyo, once na bumagsak ang ekonomiya ng Amerika, ganito yung mangyayari.
For me, I mean, our single centralized galactic currency just went from being worth 1 of itself to 0 of itself.
Calm down, people. Deploy the galactic militia and declare martial law.
Yes, sir. What should I pay them with? Their payment is the honor they'll feel to serve their... Wait, who's paying me to yell at this guy?
Give me your jacket.
Diba?
The creation of a
Magkakagulo. Gets nyo ba? Type ko kayo ng chat. Gets nyo ba yung reference na yon? Magkakagulo. Kasi, sino nga naman magbabayad sa kanya? Wala na nga silang pera.
CBDC would give them the technological power to do exactly that. If the government wanted to encourage spending, they could airdrop some dollars in our bank accounts instantaneously, which sounds nice. But if they want to discourage saving, with the flick of a switch, the money could have an expiration date, which is exactly what China did to encourage spending.
Alam niyo ba ibig sabihin ng expiration date na sinasabi nito mga to? As of now, ang Yuan meron ng expiration date, yung digital currency nila. What do you mean by that? Ibig sabihin, there's a limited supply of money. So, let's say, for example, meron kang unlimited supply na 1 million Yuan, digital currency na Yuan. 1 million ha? Kapag hindi, let's say, ang gumamit lang is 99999. Hindi nagamit yung 1. Yung 1 na yun, guys, is magkakaroon ng expiration date. Or, kung nakabili ka ng yuan, kapag hindi mo siya ginastos, magkakaroon ng expiration date. Parang option trading. Alam niyo ba yung option trading? Ang option trading is meron kang expiration date. Okay? Pag hindi mo ginamit, mausunog siya. Okay? So, ano tong sinend ni Limbal?
$4. It's a trick. I never needed these.
Oh, looky here. It's the old fishing line on the dollar bill, Frank.
Step.
That is a practical joke.
Tinapakan na lang. Wala na nga kasi magiging value yan.
Now, if all of this stuff sounds like a conspiracy theory, you don't have to look at China for that to happen, because all governments can abuse power, including the US. Because on April 5th, 1933, this happened. This was a decree issued by Franklin Roosevelt which gave US citizens 1 month.
Yan ang sinasabi ko. It happens over time. Nangyayari naman na siya dati pa eh. It's just in disguise. Naintindihan niyo yung point ko? Nangyayari siya ulit ng ulit pero naka-disguise. Bagong damit. So in that case, iisipin ng tao, so it will happen again.
Month to give up their claims to gold, including coins, bullion, and certificates. Everything was confiscated and had to be returned back to the Federal Reserve. But that's not even the crazy part. The crazy part is the people that did not agree to do this faced 10 years in prison and up to $10,000 per year in fines. Now, just for context, back in 1933, that $10,000 represented over 3 times what the average person made in a single year. So that would be like if today the government told us to turn in all our cash or risk being fined over $180,000 per year. Now, you might be thinking the government would never repeat the same mistake from 1933, and you might be right, but you don't have to look very far in history to look for clues on abuse of power. Between 2010 and 2012, the IRS prioritized conservatives and eventually apologized for unfairly targeting them for tax evasion. This naturally happens when power has an agenda and the technological ability to actually enforce it. So the question we have to ask ourselves is it worth the risk? So here's my personal opinion. Let me just channel my inner Warren Buffett for just a second, because even though it's 2023, it's starting to feel a lot more like 1984. You know what I mean? No, you wouldn't, because it's just like me, a really old reference. So I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything, because I don't know if I fully understand this stuff myself, because it's so complicated. But from my point of view, I don't think this is a fight against cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin. I don't think the government cares. Nor do I think this is a fight against consumers. And I don't think consumers care. When was the last time you got a Venmo payment from a friend and thought, this better settle now? Said no one ever. If anything, this is about commerce on a global scale. This is the way for the Federal Reserve to combine what the government is good at, which is trust in its currency system, something it had a lot more of in the past, and combining it with
Again, that's his opinion. Okay? Opinion niya yan.
the innovation from the private banking sector. Because hopefully by combining the two, they can create an innovative financial product that allows the US to stay ahead on the global stage. The byproduct of which happens to be full control. But it's also not a tool that the government needed to add to its toolbox. Got plenty of those. But still, regardless of how much people oppose the idea of CBDCs, I think they're inevitable. As countries around the world launch their own, the US won't want to be left behind. Even the World Economic Forum have told us that if the central banks don't innovate, they'll be left behind and lose the idea of money and trust and quote control. So it makes sense why they have to innovate. But does that mean you should sell your dollars and buy some Bitcoin? Probably not. I don't think it's going to be that bad. But I still am just a little bit as a hedge. And that's just me. I hope you have a...
So there you have it. Okay? There you have it. So, I remember way back before, nung sinasabi ni Andre J. na, dollar costing average siya kay Bitcoin and all that. I believe him. Okay naman. But again, I stopped watching Andre J noong times na nagkakaroon ng fall sa S&P, sa Bitcoin. And then, he's saying na, okay, it's just a news. It's ganyan. Okay. It's okay. It's fine. Okay. But again, may mga alam si Andre J. Okay. May mga alam si Andre J na hindi ko din alam. Okay. Which is, at least, he's coming forward to educate some of you, some of us. And, same thing, ina-educate niya rin ang sarili niya. Okay? Which is nothing wrong about it. So, for now, isip kayo na mabuti. Again, si Andre J. maraming investment sa cryptocurrency. That's why he's saying all of that. Okay? But again, I want you guys to think. Pag-isipan nyo mabuti. I'm not encouraging each and every one of you to invest in cryptocurrency anymore. Diba sabi ko nga sa inyo, kung Bitcoin pa rin yan, by the end of the day, you'll see it. Pero, hindi ngayon. Bakit? It's just, nasa bear market tayo. And ang bear market natin, di ba, sinabi ko naman sa inyo, kung dati way back nung nasa TikTok pa tayo, lahat ng ibang tao, hindi tayo pinaniwalaan when it comes to saying na, bear market na to. Ayaw. Ano nangyari? Down to 17,000. Okay? So, I hope you get the idea. Okay? Kung gusto nyo panoorin to on your own, okay lang din. Okay? So, yeah. Mas mabuti, pag-aralan nyo mabuti yung ginagawa ninyo dito and yung mga tinitingnan nyo. And the CBDC, you heard it here first. It's coming. Palapit na to. So, other than that, nagbigay na ako sa inyo dito sa, nagbigay na ako dito sa inyo sa announcement kung ano yung link na papanoorin nyo regarding this one. So, this is a 43-minute long video. So, mas mabuti panoorin nyo to ng full. Don't skip any part. Again, matapos nyo lang to para nyo na natapos yung libro. Okay? It's just, hindi lang in-depth details dito when it comes to each trends and whatsoever, hindi lang siya in-depth details kasi nga kailangan niyo pa rin basahin yung libro. Pero if hindi niyo naman na kailangan magsayang ng oras or whatsoever, hindi niyo rin mabili yung libro dahil limited lang yung supply dito sa Pilipinas, kailangan niyo pa mag-order which is mahal. Abot pa kayo na siguro ng 5,000 diyan or 4,000 para lang magastos. Ako 3,000 ata bili ko sa libro, I don't know, 299 ata yan, something like that. And guess what, never na ako nakakita ulit sa bookstores. I'm trying to find another one pero wala na. Okay? So, yeah. Kay Chef Marbs naman, okay, kay Chef Marbs, kay Sir JM mo yung libro ko ng Changing the World Order. I'll try to give it to you, Sir Chef Marbs, no? Sa makapagkita tayo sa Alabang anytime soon. So, I'll try to give it to you. Wala ka ba dito? Nasaan ka ba? Sa bakasyon ka ba? But anyways, kung sakali lang. Okay? So, nasa puso ko pala eh. Diyos ko. Boom! Panis! Okay, anyways, yun lang. Okay. And then, yeah, panoorin nyo to guys. Gusto ko matutunan nyo lahat to. Gusto ko ma-gets nyo yung idea ko when it comes to this kind of, ayun, napapakita nyo rin naman sa inyo yung mga charts na ito, mas mabuti. Okay? So again, I guess that's very much it guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you're having a profitable, knowledgeable day so far. I hope marami kayong natutunan kahit na medyo busy tayo today kasi nga, holiday. So, I hope you enjoy the rest of the holidays na meron kayo. And then, yeah. Again guys, sa mga gumagamit naman ng tips na binigay ko sa inyo when it comes to you are the backup plan, still in play. I'm trading for hourly time frame pa rin until now. So, everyday yun guys. Everyday, even Saturday and Sunday, kailangan po yun. So, yun ang ginagamit ko during Saturday and Sunday na wala kang kayang matrade ng price action when it comes to lower time frame. So, yung 4-hourly clip ang magagamit ko. So, again, thank you so much for watching. Hope you're having a great day so far. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye. Peace out.